That's the sound of the police. That's the sound of the beast. That's the sound of the police.
Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. So this Crown Vic, the first content I published on this car was January 28th of 2019. The last content I posted on this car was August 28th of 2019. So it's been 5 months since I've provided any updates on this Crown Vic. Now, to go back in time, I bought this car from an auction, and I will link all the content down below. It's a lot to cover about how much I spent on this, the rebuild process, the whole 9 yards. There's a lot of information there. And basically the reason why I have not provided any updates in the last 5 months on this car is because I've just been using it. I've been driving it almost every day when I'm not riding my bike. Yeah, this car has been stellar, and I just haven't had a whole lot to update you guys with, but a lot has happened since I've been driving this car. But first and foremost, just to catch up some of my viewers without having to go through all the old videos, I bought this car with just under 100,000 miles on it. I bought it at auction from Sacramento, which from Phoenix here was about a 1,100 mile trip each way to go and pick this car up. A lot of people thought I was nuts, including my wife, and really, to be honest with you, including myself. And I was lucky enough through the process of this to have Summit Racing sponsor the rebuild portion of this series. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. But I did do some comparisons in previous videos about how much it would have cost to basically do this same thing with junkyard parts and what it would cost to do it with new parts as I had done from Summit Racing. And to be totally honest with you guys, with how much time and effort I spend on all of this, to have parts show up to your house, it's definitely an added benefit than having to go to the salvage yard and pull all these panels, and it's quite a bit of work to do all that. So several different ways to skin a cat, and in my opinion, I still would have went and bought all of the new panels just because I'm strapped for time anyways. So what I did do was replaced all the panels, and I did a home spray paint job. It turned out terrible, and I appreciate the fact that Summit Racing sponsored that portion of the build. It certainly was a ton of work to try to do that, and some of these panels actually turned out pretty decent. The hood, being that it's so enormous, and I didn't use the right clear coat. I should have used a 2K clear out of the spray can. I did not, and the results show for that. So I could go back over this and do a 2K clear if I wanted to. I've looked into that. It's something that I'm basically at the point now where I'm just gonna go and take this to a paint shop, because it's a lot of work to spend an entire weekend trying to paint this up and then having mixed results or not being able to really guarantee results. So I'm gonna take it in to get painted. So when I got this car back from Sacramento, which I did trailer back, it had just under 98,000 miles. As it sits today, it has just under 111,000 miles. So I have put just over 13,000 miles on this car in the last year. Now, that is partially why I've not updated any of this series, is because I wanted to make sure that this car was solid before I went and spent any money on a paint job or anything like that. And I can tell you that this car is one of the most solid cars that I've owned ever, and that includes every new vehicle that I've ever owned. This thing is running like a top. I did have one mechanical issue with this car that needed to be fixed pretty much from day one, and that is the ABS light was on. So when you look at the codes that it was throwing, it was basically saying that a wheel speed sensor was faulty, and based on what all the forums say, it was either the wheel bearing was bad or the control module under the hood was bad. And I just figured at 100,000 plus miles, pretty good chance that the bearings might be going bad, so it was worth just replacing them anyways. They're probably gonna go 120,000-ish or so miles, so might as well do them. So I did the bearings. Well, the ABS light was still on, so I ran over to the scrapyard, pulled off an ABS module off another Crown Vic, swapped that out. It was a really easy job, and then the ABS light went off. So my ABS problem is now solved, and I have 2 new wheel bearings on the front of the car, which alleviates that as something I'm gonna have to do in the near future anyway, so I'm happy with that. So after all that was said and done, I did go through, I did obviously oil change, a couple oil changes through this now. I did the radiator flush, I did a serpentine belt, I did the differential fluid rear diff, and basically spark plugs. And that's really it. Those are all just things that have to be done at 100,000 miles anyways. And it's all things that boosted the fuel economy on this thing almost 1.5 miles per gallon. So one of the things that's important to note with these Crown Vics, P71s, I think 2008 or 2006, I don't know which year it started, but they started tracking hours on the motor. And no, it is not resettable. Ford has a calculation where 1 idle hour is equal to 33 miles of travel on the odometer. So it's not uncommon for these cars to hit the auctions at 1,000 minimum, most falling, I've seen 2,000 to 3,000, and some of them push 5,000 hours of idle time. Now 1,000 hours of idle time is equal to 33,000 miles of travel. So if you get one of these with 2,000 hours on that meter, you're talking an extra 66,000 miles equivalent on an odometer. So this car I got with 356 hours, which is virtually nothing, 11,000 miles about. And the reason is this was a Sacramento County probation car. So that is also why it has the street appearance package. Hubcaps, it has brake dust there, chrome on the door handles. It had body painted panels on the rear end, which I changed to black because this car is so gold and chrome that it just looks like an old guy's Crown Vic, and I wanted to knock a couple years off as far as what the age looked like. I don't want to look like a 95-year-old man running down the road. And I've also ordered the center caps, the hubcaps, the chrome ones, basically so that the rim is more black as opposed to these brake dust catching, terrible plastic wheel covers that I don't think they look terrible, but if the car was any other color, I probably would keep them on there, but it just kind of adds to the vibe of senior citizen running down the road in their Crown Vic. So I think I'm going to swap that out, see how it looks. And that's kind of what I'm going to try to go for, is a little bit of like a black and tan on this car. I do think this car will run well over 250,000 miles. Some of these cars go 300,000 with 10,000 idle hours, and this car is running so strong that I could drive this car for 3-4 years and easily and probably be just fine with some routine maintenance. So I do have haters out there that have left comments saying that he doesn't have a real P71 because it's basically because of the street appearance package. The reason why it is one of the better P71s out there is because the street appearance package, well, it has all the creature comforts of almost a civilian Crown Vic. I did go and get new tires as well. I would imagine, and based on what I saw in this car, that these county fleet maintenance facilities, when there's a flat, they just grab what other tire they have around, throw it on there, and you end up with a lot of mismatched, same branded tires, but you could tell manufacturer dates were all over the place. They were starting to dry rot, and the factory RSAs that came on these cop cars, to any police officers that drove on those tires, God bless you, because they were just all over the road. I mean, those tires were really, really bad. So I did go with a Goodyear. This is the Eagle Sports. It's basically the, I guess, higher end Goodyear tire, and it made a huge difference to how this car handled. I'm really happy with these Goodyears and how they're performing. And that's really it for maintenance. Aside from some other, I did a fuel filter, and that's really it. I do expect that I'll be doing brakes relatively soon, and that's really all she wrote. So all in, putting this car together in, at the time, a parking stall, basically a covered parking space at my old apartment, with basic tools, some ratchet straps to pull some things together, and that was it. I mean, way easier than I ever had anticipated, and the car is running not better than expected. I mean, it's blown me away is how great this car is actually running, and it's been awesome. I also on the interior, part of being a daily driver with this car, I bought a $300-ish Sony head unit. I replaced the speakers in the car because the P71s came with basically, it sounds like a quiet megaphone through a wet paper towel. I upgraded it with some Infinity speakers, relatively just basic stuff, so it sounds great. I have a backup camera on this thing now, which, you know, these cars are huge, and it's really nice to have that backup camera. Super easy stuff to wire up. Just real basic things. So in my opinion, I now have a Crown Vic that has, you know, a nice stereo with a backup camera, Apple CarPlay, creature comforts of newer cars that people are paying $300, $400, $500 a month for, and it's got a lot of character. And the guys at work, people that when they see it, it's always a topic of discussion. Unfortunately, usually based around my horrible paint job. But either way, I have a good sense of humor. It's all fine. And I love this car. So going into 2020, my goal, because I think mechanic-wise, as far as what this car is, platform, the frame is in perfect shape. There's no rust anywhere. This thing is just, it's immaculate as far as mechanics go. Underneath the engine compartment is cleaned up. It looks beautiful. I am going to work on getting this to be one of the nicest P71s on YouTube, and that's kind of a goal of mine in 2020, is to get this car just really looking the part of what a P71 should be, and I think it's going to be pretty awesome. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. I just wanted to get an update of what the status of this Crown Vic is, because I do know that some of my new subscribers probably don't even know I have this car, and then some of the other older subscribers are probably wondering, hey, where's the updates on this car? So that's where I'm at today. With all that being said, guys, again, thank you very much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel. If you want to watch more content about the whole rebuild of this car, I will link all of that in the description down below, and I'll see you guys next time.